Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Friday the 13th, and welcome to the Academic Research and Student Success Committee this morning. It's an interesting time that we continue to have to meet by Zoom, but it is what it is, and thank you guys for participating. So at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask Dr. Green to please take a roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, because trustees are participating remotely by Zoom, I must run through a series of questions before calling roll. Additionally, because we have trustees participating remotely, should any votes be taken, they must be taken by roll call. Members of the Academic Research Student Success Committee, in accordance with Tennessee Code 8-44-108, Section C3, I have two questions to ask if you could answer for the record. I'll ask both questions once and follow with the roll call so that you may respond. First, are you able to clearly hear those participating in this meeting? And would you please identify any persons present in the room with you? Trustee Ayers.
I can hear, and there's no one in the room with me, or actually in the car with me.
Trustee Foley.
I can hear, and there's no one in the room with me.
Trustee Nicewonger.
I'm clear by myself.
Trustee Segal Jones.
I can hear, and no one is in the room with me.
And Chair Latimer.
I can hear and no one is in the room with me.
Madam Chair, I do not detect a physical quorum present. However, a quorum does exist by the inclusion of members participating by electronic means. In accordance with Tennessee Executive Order 65, permitting safe, open, and transparent public meetings by electronic means, I would offer up to the committee the following reasons that necessitate this meeting. Business critical to the operations of the institution are slated for this committee meeting, such as the approval of a revised spring 2021 academic calendar and updates on the ETSU's Research Foundation. Due to the COVID-19 virus outbreak and subsequent recommendations from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as Governor Bill Lee, physical distancing measures and limit on group gatherings are being observed. For these reasons, I would contend that participation by a quorum of the committee members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary. Madam Chair, I ask that a motion be made and a roll call vote be taken for the determination on the necessity of holding this meeting. An affirmative vote will signify the necessity does exist for this meeting to proceed. A dissenting vote will signify that a necessity does not exist for this meeting to continue.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll second.
Second.
Dr. Green, could you please take a roll call vote?
Trustee Ayers.
Aye.
Trustee Foley.
Aye.
Trustee Nicewonger.
Aye.
Trustee Segal Jones.
Aye.
And Chair Latimer.
Aye.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum and the need for this meeting has been voiced. Also, please let the record reflect that in addition to members of your Academic Research and Student Success Committee, the following trustees are participating in today's committee meeting. Trustee DeCarlo, Trustee Grisham, and Trustee Austin Ramsey.
Great. Thanks everyone for coming. We will next go to the action items, and Dr. Bishop will present the revised academic calendar for the spring of 2021.
Thank you, Chair Latimer. Of course, with COVID continuing and concern for the safety and security of our faculty, our staff, and our students, we have looked at the calendar which you have formally approved and made some revisions to ensure a safe environment. The information is provided in your packet, but I'll briefly point out the highlights of the changes so you'll be aware. The semester will start on its regularly scheduled start date, which is January 19th, and that follows a holiday for Martin Luther King's Day on January the 18th. Significant difference is we will not have a full week of spring break as we have always had in the past. So spring break, which was scheduled for March 15th through 21, has been canceled. But we do know that our students and our faculty need opportunities, particularly with the intensity of the offsite and remote modalities, to have time and have breaks away. So we've tried to schedule and disperse breaks throughout the semester that would not encourage significant travel, but would give students some time for catch up and respite. And so with 5 days that they would normally have had for spring breaks, will be held 2 days at a time on Thursday and Friday, February 18 and 19, and March 15 and 16, and then one additional day on April the 14th on a Wednesday. So we've tried to disperse those days across the teaching week so that there would not be a disproportionate loss of teaching time in any one class. Also, the university remains open during spring break. So the university is not closing during this time, but our students will have a break. We have a regular Good Friday holiday schedule for April the 2nd. We'll continue to have winter session in December 16th through January 10, as we always have. And we will end the semester as on our scheduled ending date, which would be graduation on May the 8th. So I present these changes to you for your action, and would also point out in addition that the Quillen College of Medicine and the Gatton College of Pharmacy will continue to follow their own academic calendars and will not be held to these.
Thank you. I know there's a lot of work that goes into this. I can't imagine the gymnastics of constantly having to change, but thank you for that. Is there a motion to approve the spring 2021 revised academic calendar?
So moved.
Second? Great. Dr. Green, could you please take the roll call?
Trustee Ayers,
Yes.
Trustee Foley,
Aye.
Trustee Niswonger,
Aye.
Trustee Segal Jones,
Aye.
and Chair Latimer.
Aye. Next, we will start with an information item on the letter of notification regarding the establishment of a Master's of Science in Orthotics and Prosthetics. And Dr. Bishop, would you please present that as well?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Latimer. And I'm going to use this information item to give you an update on several of our program proposals that have been before the board and are now in the process of review by THEC. And because this is one of the first meetings that we've had all of the trustees attend, Dean Don Samples is going to give you a little bit more of an in-depth into one of those programs so that the trustees who haven't heard this before will have an opportunity to be informed about what goes into this curriculum process. We are at the stage of moving forward with our doctorate in occupational therapy. You'll recall that that was presented to you on April 2019. We have had our offsite review with external reviewers. We had reviewers from the University of Toledo and the University at Arkansas State. They provide a report to us. We respond to that report to make sure that we have quality in our proposal and that is consistent with what professionals in the field across the country expect. And then we respond to that. THEC reviews it, and if they approve at the staff level, it will go to the THEC meeting in January for approval, and then come back to you all for one final opportunity for you to approve. At the same time that we reviewed and approved the doctorate in occupational therapy, you also approved a Master's of Fine Arts in Digital Media. And that program is moving at a different pace, but they had an external reviewer in October of this year. We're awaiting the external reviewer's report, but with some alacrity on our part and no significant changes that would have to be made at THEC, we may be able to get that to the January THEC board meeting, or it may have to wait until May. But in either case, we're hoping to have it ready for implementation in fall of 21. So those are two programs that have moved along in the process. Our program that we're going to present to you today is the Orthotics and Prosthetics program. You approved the first stage of this letter of notification and application process in September of 2019. And this program now has just completed its external review. No, I'm sorry, my apologies. We have just submitted the names of potential external reviewers, and we are at that process where we can move forward with it. but we've made a lot of progress on campus over the time since September of 2019, when you approved the initial LON. And Dean Samples will tell you about the program. He'll tell you about the progress that's being made, and then we'll kind of wrap up and answer any questions that you might have. So, Dr. Samples, would you review for this committee the master's program in orthotics and prosthetics? And I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bishop. It's a pleasure to be in front of the board this morning to present this program. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Bishop, Dr. Nolan for their continued academic support of our academic growth agenda in the college. We're very excited about this particular program, and I think upon conclusion of this presentation, you'll see the uniqueness of it and how we feel it's going to set the university apart from a lot of universities across the country. But we've been working very hard over the past year to put on the final pieces of the puzzle, so to speak, to present to THEC a Master's of Science in Orthotics and Prosthetics, and we're moving right along. Over the past year, we've made significant progress on our needs assessment, identifying the growth potential that this particular program may have. We've also worked on the proposal itself. We've set the curriculum, which we feel like it's innovative and creative and cutting edge that a lot of other programs don't have. And we've been very busy in developing 28 actual syllabi in course development. So that's taken a lot of time from faculty and consultants and those types of things. We're very happy that the progress we've made in our curriculum proposal. We've worked quite a bit to identify the projected enrollments that we need to make this program fiscally sound. And we developed a budget that I'll talk about here in a couple of minutes that will show you the budgetary constraints and the budgetary challenges associated with this particular program. And in the past year, we've also been very fortunate to work with the College of Medicine to identify some space over on the VA campus that I'll share with you in a couple of minutes. And we've worked with a consulting company to develop some renovation plans, and we're in the early stages of moving forward with those plans. As we speak, we're having meetings, so we're happy to report that we're moving ahead with facilities as well. This particular program has a very high demand, as does a lot of health-related programs in the country. When we look at demand for programs, the first thing we typically go to is the U.S. Labor Statistics reports. And this report indicates that this profession, when compared to others, has a growth rate that's much faster than the average. So we're excited to bring this academic program into our portfolio with health-related programs in the college, and feel that it will be another high-demand program that we will be offering to prospective students. This particular profession obviously has two distinct career paths, or actually three. An individual can go into both orthotics and prosthetics, or they can elect to specialize in just prosthetics itself or orthotics itself. And it's a mouthful just to say those professions, but we found that the orthotics piece of the profession is probably the one that's in the most demand, with about 92% of their workload comes out of the orthotics section compared to the prosthetics section. But we're very excited to move forward with that. They work with a wide variety of patients and they're patients that have a high prevalence in this region. Things such as diabetes and stroke and scoliosis and those types of things are the types of conditions these particular healthcare professionals work with. So in order to keep up with the demand of these growing chronic conditions, and with the aging population in this region, we've discovered that there's a need for more schools to train these health professionals as they move forward. And this is, to me, this is the most prominent slide that we need to spend time on. When you look at orthotics and prosthetics, there are only 12 programs across the entire United States that offers this degree. Now, your first question is, why is there only 12? Well, there's probably some reasons behind that, which we'll discuss in a second, but there are only 12 across the country. But the schools that they're located at are very prominent universities. So I think we'll find ourselves in good company, that we will be also associated with other programs in orthotics and prosthetics at Northwestern or Baylor or University of Pittsburgh, University of Washington, Loma Linda, those types of institutions, high prominent, high profile universities across the country, that ETSU will be in that level of academic programs and care that we'll be very proud of. You will note that in looking at this diagram that there are no programs in the state of Tennessee, and there's no programs within 400 miles of Johnson City. So the closest programs are probably University of Pittsburgh, and there's a program in Montgomery at Alabama State. Those are the closest programs, but they're a good distance from here. So if someone from the great state of Tennessee wants to go into orthotics or prosthetics, they're going to have to leave the state to do so. So we feel that it will be very beneficial to the university and likewise to the students as well to have a program like this in our academic portfolio. So based on that, we think there's a very high regional demand for this program with no programs within driving distance, so to speak. We think there's a high demand for this program. It will match very well with our other high demand programs such as OT and PT and speech language pathology. All those programs are very high demand. We think this program will as well. As I mentioned earlier, students are currently having to move out of the state, out of the state. And with us being able to offer this program, we would meet a very significant need as far as providing healthcare in the state of Tennessee. This particular program would be offered in the Department of Rehab Sciences, Rehab Health Sciences in the College of Clinical and Rehabilitative Health Sciences. That is significant from the standpoint that this department is fairly new. It's probably 2 to 2.5 years old now. And it houses the physical therapy program, the nutrition program, which both are programs that we've had for quite some time now. It also houses the new BS degree in Rehab Sciences that the board approved about 2 to 2.5 years ago. So that program is housed in this department. But more importantly, it is housing these two developing programs that Dr. Bishop alluded to. The OTD, the Doctorate in Occupational Therapy, will be housed in this department, as well as the Orthotics and Prosthetics program. So this particular department is a high-profile department. We think will be it will set the college apart. We're really establishing ourselves as a rehab health science training center, I think, across the country with these types of academic programs coming into our portfolio that we're very excited about. So the proposal itself, you'll find, is a 2-year master's program. The students would start every summer. We're starting them a little off cycle, and we're not starting them in the fall because we had to work with the College of Medicine. One of the first courses they need to take is gross anatomy and physiology. So we had to work with them to find out a time that their labs were available. So that's why we're bringing them in at the start of summer. So it is a 2-year academic program. They would start in the summer and graduate 2 years in that spring. We're very excited about the interdisciplinary nature of the curriculum. You'll notice in a couple of minutes, we're designing a curriculum that not only will be available for orthotics and prosthetics, but some of the courses will be interchangeable with physical therapy and occupational therapy. So that's the best practice training model right now for healthcare providers, is putting them in an interdisciplinary educational model. So they'll take classes that they'll be sitting in the classroom with future PTs, future OTs, and future O&Ps. So we think it's going to be a really good training model for these students, a real good research opportunity for faculty to collaborate. And we're very excited about this interdisciplinary curriculum model that we've developed. It is a 76-hour master's program, which consists of about 28 courses that the students would take over those 6 semesters that they're in the program. The student cohorts are a little smaller than I'd like to see them, but they're small. They're anywhere from 14 to 15 students per cohort. The reason for that is because of the lab restrictions. We will be building out a orthotics and prosthetics lab And it's just a fact of we can't build a lab large enough to house 20 or 25 students. There probably is demand out there, but we feel like to make sure that we meet accreditation standards, we need to have about 14. I might be able to stretch the faculty to go to 16 or 14 to 15 students per cohort. So a total of about 30 students in the cohort or in the program at any given time. We're projecting about 3 faculty members in this program, one of which we've already hired, and 1 lab technician. We were very, very fortunate this past summer to hire Dr. Chris Horvoka. Chris is one of the few PhDs that you'll find in this profession. He is responsible for actually establishing the first O&P program in the nation many years ago. So he comes to us as a national leader in the profession. We're very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to hire him, and we're going to come out of the gate, I feel like, as a very strong program based on his leadership and expertise in setting up labs and from a curriculum perspective as well. Based on Chris's expertise, we're trying to focus the curriculum not only interprofessionally, but also trying to train future clinicians, not technicians. The old training model for O&P programs were to train the technical skills of the profession, which we will do, but we want to provide a more wider scope of practice, more evidence-based practice, so these individuals will be able to expand their scope of practice when they get out and start working. So we're going to focus these folks on being not necessarily technicians, but more clinicians, and being able to evaluate and make recommendations on proper care for the actual patient. Cost and revenue projections for this particular program. In a couple of minutes, I'll show you the financial projection form that we're required to submit to THEC. We will start generating revenue and tuition revenue and fees the first summer of 22 when we admit the class. We have allocated a significant amount of college or institutional resources or reallocation to get this program off the ground and up and running. I think that's the primary reason why you only see 12 programs in the country, is because of the expense to get these programs up and running. The lab component, the equipment, and renovation for a lab is not a very cheap process. So we feel very fortunate. We've known that we wanted to have this program for quite some time. We've been very diligent in our budgeting over the past several years. We've been allowed, Dr. Nolan and Dr. Bishop has allowed us to carry over from year to year. So we're very fortunate. We feel like to have the financial resources to reallocate to address the cost of starting these types of labs. We currently don't have any types of federal grants, private grants or gifts to establish the program, but we are currently working on that as we speak. Our development officer is out beating the bushes, so to speak, to see what we can come up with. When looking at projected enrollments, I just indicated we're going to take 14 to 15 students a year. So once the program is up and running full steam, we'll have anywhere from 29 to 30 students in the total program at any given time. We have to factor in a little bit of attrition there. Since the highly selective nature of this program, we hope we don't have any attrition, but we could. So at any given time, 2 or 3 years down the road, there should be 29 to 30 students in the program at any given time. We have been very fortunate over the past year to year and a half in working with the College of Medicine on the VA campus to identify some space. Dr. Block and his colleagues at the College of Medicine has been very gracious to let us have some space in Building 2 on the VA campus. And if you're familiar with Building 2, it's the building to the right of the clock tower building. It currently houses, on the second floor of that building, it currently houses our brand new renovated physical therapy department. Hopefully you'll have an opportunity to tour that building at some point in time. On the top floor is a family medicine department, College of Medicine. But we're very fortunate to have been given the first floor of Building 2, and that's the floor that we plan on doing the major renovation, not only to house the orthotics and prosthetics program, but also the OTD, the occupational therapy program as well. Let me apologize for the blurriness of this diagram. It's the best I had, but you'll see this is the basic layout of that floor. To the right here is where the occupational therapy program will be housed. To the left side of the wing of the building will be where the orthotics and prosthetics program will be housed. And if I could, I'll zoom in a little bit. It's a little bit clearer. You can see the types of rooms this type of program will have to have. They'll have to have training and fitting rooms for patients that will actually have access to the building. There will be a fabrication and mechanical room. There's a large room that the students have a workshop, a lab to actually work on the actual devices. There's a multi-purpose room, a lamination and plaster room, an actual sewing room, and so on and so forth. So we're very excited to have this space. Again, right above this is the PT program. So they'll be able to have classes together and share their space as well. Before I go on to the financial spreadsheet, are there any questions about the actual proposal or the program or where we're going with the program to this point?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we at the medical school or any of the allied health schools, does ETSU Health have a private clinic for PT? Go ahead.
We currently do not. We had at one point a PT clinic in the Johnson City Community Health Center, but it struggled. It didn't do as well as we'd like for it to do. We've last summer we renovated the Nave Center. The Nave Center is a one-story building right behind Elizabethton High School that housed the radiography program, the restorative therapy program since the 70s. We've converted that building into the college's clinical services building. Currently, there's a very large speech-language pathology clinic in there and an audiology clinic. But the plans are once the Lamb Hall renovations are complete and we can get radiography out of the building, we're going to put a PT and an OT and an O&P clinic along with other services in that building, probably social work, nutrition, those types of programs over there.
Because I would think with this program, especially with the veterans, let alone, all the inpatient, with our orthopedic residency just starting over at the medical school, I mean, this is just a wonderful opportunity for reimbursement purposes to have a clinic, and that would allow placement and practice for all of our graduates.
Well, we agree, Dr. Latimer, and we're very excited about the opportunity to collaborate with the VA and the College of Medicine. We've had multiple conversations with the VA. Even a couple of years ago when we first started looking at this, we actually, Dr. Rowe arranged for us to go to Walter Reed to take a tour of their O&P lab and facilities. We have been talking with the VA about some form of collaboration. Currently, what the VA does for all of their O&P referrals, they refer them out. They don't have an in-house system, so we'll be happy to work with them. Potentially even having a faculty member that has a joint appointment between us and the VA would be something we'd be interested in as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, real quickly, I apologize for taking so much time. I'd like to show you the financial section if I could. I think the key thing to take away from this is you'll see the one-time expenditures we're estimating to be about a little over $2 million. Again, we've already set those resources aside, thanks to Dr. Bishop and Dr. Nolan. And you'll see here that the total expenditure is a little over $2 million in the first year that we have in reserves. And you'll see, I think the important thing here is you'll see starting in year 2, which is actually year 3, but in year 2 of the academic program, we actually start covering the cost of the program. So that's not a very big investment from my perspective to make, to be able to show that the program can cover its cost, but more importantly, it's going to provide a service to the community, a much needed service to the community, and something that we're very interested in doing. Any questions about the financial sheet? Well, thank you all for the opportunity to present this to you all this morning. Hopefully at some point, once the renovations are finished, we'd love for you all to come by and take a tour of what we think is going to be a national model for rehab practice training of rehab professions in the future. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you, Dr.
Sample,
Samples.
Dr. Samples,
Yes, sir.
is this a program similar to medicine where we actually are getting a full load tuition or above a normal tuition rate for this program because of its uniqueness?
Mr. Nicewar, thank you for asking that question, and that's something that I omitted by accident. We will be charging standard tuition rates at the university, but thanks to the board for approving the health science fee several years ago, we will have access to that health science fee that we will help cover the cost. This program is very expensive to run with the supplies, equipment and supplies. So that health science fee that the board approved several years ago will have a tremendous impact on our ability to cover the cost of the program.
Thank you.
Dean Samples, are there particular undergraduate majors that would prepare students for taking this path?
Dr. Sherlin, that's a very good question. We have our undergraduate degree in rehab science would be ideal. The types of courses that has been put into that curriculum would be ideal for those students to matriculate into this master's program. But there are other programs across campus. We've talked to the College of Business and Technology, so technology students, engineering students. There's a wide variety of, as long as they have the prerequisites, any student will be eligible to seek admission into this program, but ideally someone from with previous healthcare courses, engineering types of courses. There's a specialty area in this profession, and I think a growing area in the next 10 to 20 years. This profession will probably do a lot of robotics types of things. And I think this, having an engineering background, and we've been working with Keith Johnson's department and we'll be recruiting heavily out of Dr. Johnson's department to recruit students.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, this concludes our report at this time.
Great, thank you. That was very good. Next, we're going to have some information and discussion items, and I am super excited to hear this next one under Dr. Nolan is going to present Research Foundation Reorganization. And if you remember a couple of years ago, the board took action to change the name of this committee to include the word research. So I'm really excited to hear this presentation. Thanks, Dr. Nolan.
Chairman Latimer, members of the board, good morning, and thank you on behalf of staff for the opportunity to present an item, as well as to, I hope, set the stage for a conversation and discussion. Given the board's longstanding interest in this matter, as well as the board's steadfast support for research across campus, we as staff want to ensure that we're moving in a direction that is in concert with the board's expectation, as well as the collective vision across the region to grow and diversify the research opportunities and research portfolio of the university. And as we move into the work of what will be a second phase of strategic visioning for the campus, I think it's appropriate that we ask a couple of big questions. As we embarked upon a strategic visioning journey in the last decade, we as an institution set a big vision in areas such as student success, in areas such as support for academic aspects of the campus, capital construction, et cetera. And I hope today we can ask some big questions about research and what we want research to look like on this campus at the close of this decade. But I want to step back for a little bit and just remind the board of some of the work that has occurred to date that sets the stage for this conversation. I want to thank Dr. Rob Pack and a committee that met in 2014 and 15, kind of growing out of the work of the Committee for 125 to set the stage for what could be a future vision for research on campus. 2019, a committee was chaired by Dr. Nick Hagemeyer that picked this work back up and continued to fine-tune and evolve a vision for research. We brought in outside consultants who visited the campus and worked with us in 2018 to really reflect upon the opportunities presented as a result of the Ballard merger. We've done some assessments of our assets, both in the iLab as well as Valley Brook. And we've talked a great deal about the opportunity in front of this campus as a result of the merger. With the creation of Ballad Health and the elements contained within the COPA prescribes dedicated investments that Ballad will make in this institution to help grow and diversify our research infrastructure. And over the course of the past few years, we've explored what those opportunities could entail. We've brought together a lot of conversations across campus, but we've not been able to really take that next step. And for a variety of reasons, we've not been able to take that next step. But I think that there are some issues that are emerging both across the region and on campus that provide some opportunities for us to really, hopefully in 2021, make some defined progress and begin to realize these visions that have been articulated by the campus as well as by the board. So what are some of the things that have changed? Well, the first is the creation of the Center for Rural Health Research. With the funding by the state of Tennessee to create the Center for Rural Health Research, in typical Dr. Wyckoff fashion, he has moved aggressively. He has hired and recruited faculty. We've received millions of dollars of federal support, which has created space pressures on College of Public Health. So as we look for new space for that element to grow, that's causing us to look at existing elements such as the Innovation Lab. As we look at Valley Brook and a lot of the really exciting ideas that Professor David Golden has brought to the table, I think we've got a strategic opportunity in 21 to begin to finally realize some of the broad visions for Valley Brook. But I think we also have the recognition that as we're moving into a world post-COVID, this is the time for the university to move. So as I reference in my final paragraph here in this agenda item, in order for us to realize the vision outlined in our existing strategic plan, but also as we start moving into 125 Chapter 2, I think it's appropriate that we as a university begin to fully explore opportunities for the ETSU Research Foundation to coordinate its portfolio of disparate but ideally related organizations and facilities that include the iLab, the Small Business Development Center, the Institute for Computational Research and Data Sciences, Valley Brook, intellectual property, and technology transfer. It's time that we look at the bylaws, that those bylaws are reconstituted to meet the big vision for the university, that we look at the board of directors and the role of the executive director and CEO. And there are two gentlemen who are on the call today who are really taking the lead in a lot of these discussions. As I've said to the board on a number of occasions, I have the wonderful opportunity to tell the story of the people of this institution. And I've tried to set this discussion today by telling a little of the background story. But I'd like to turn to Dr. Bill Duncan and to Professor David Golden to share with you some of the conversations that they have been having about the current state of research, the future state of research, and how some significant changes to our research foundation, or maybe we call it a research corporation, could really position us to move with energy post-COVID in some areas that I know are of extreme interest to this board and to the campus as a whole. So Dr. Duncan, Professor Golden, will turn to you, and Dr. Duncan would like to maybe have you kind of set this a little bit. If there's one person who has done yeoman's work over the course of the past 7 years, it's Dr. Duncan. In addition to leading research and sponsored programs, helping to build out support for faculty, Valley Brook, the iLab, and everything else has fallen up under his domain. And he said to me on a couple of occasions, you know, Dr. Nolan, I really could use some help. And I think with the arrival of Professor Golden, we have that opportunity. So Dr. Duncan, thank you for your leadership. And thank you to you and Professor Golden for the conversation that will now facilitate with a little bit of entry set from you with the committee and the board. And you all are on mute, please unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Dr. Nolan. I'm really excited about the opportunity with Mr. Golden joining. We've been having conversations over the last month or so, and we really look forward to working together. I think we're excited about the opportunity to link our research growth here with the growth of innovation in the region, but also the growth of economic development across our region, and finding ways to address that. Mr. Golden's contacts within the region and nationally are going to be very helpful in doing this. We've been surprised how our thinking along these lines are really in line with both of us. So I think the opportunity to increase innovation will allow opportunities for our faculty to have greater interactions with outside companies within the region, and both nationally attracting them to here and also helping attract new faculty. So we see growth of the Research Foundation from a standpoint of enhancing innovation and economic development will clearly be a plus for our researchers on campus, and is one arm of our plan to grow research dramatically. And Mr. Golden may want to weigh in, but we've been really excited. We've had multiple conversations about how we could work together as a team and really grow both research and innovation in the region.
Thank you, Dr. Duncan. And I would echo the enthusiasm. I didn't know Bill very well before joining the faculty. And even though our age may be a little bit different, there are times I think that we were just separated at birth as we have conversations, excited about the potential. Just to drill down a little bit more on some of the thinking, when you look at 3 opportunities that face the university that an enhanced or next gen approach to the Research Foundation could address. One is this notion of, we know as an academic institution, we would love more funding, but we're probably not going to get it to the degree that we would like or need. And so that begs the question, how do we use existing resources in a way that brings a greater return? And one of the ways to do that is to build bridges among the resources. In other words, if we look at our resources as islands and we have the opportunity to invest more in islands or more in bridges, from a networking perspective, bridges actually bring the greater return, because you begin to build a more complex and robust neural net, as it were, and you're going to get an exponential return on that investment. A second challenge facing the university, which I would use this even if it weren't the year of COVID, is uncertainty. There's the great Gretzky quote of skating to where the puck might be. Well, that's actually probably going to be easier if you're a world-class hockey player and there's a designed play to put the puck in a certain place, but that's not the world in which, the complex world in which we live. And so we can either continue to focus on the last good or bad thing that happened, drive a bit in our rearview mirror, and hope that we get our best guess on what the future is, which is the world in which we live. Or we can embrace perhaps a little bit more of this concept of emergent engineering, where we design for a range of outcomes and embrace the uncertainty in a positive way. And I believe the Research Foundation can be a vehicle to do that, which leads to the third point of what I'll just call speed. There's an important reason that institutions as complex systems have processes that have varying timescales. At a university, as I knew on the board, but have learned even more profoundly as a faculty member, power positions and power processes evolve at a slower timescale. The opportunity to identify a new major and run the gauntlet before students are enrolled, that's a longer timescale. There's important reasons for that. However, when you face uncertainty, having all timescales go at the same pace is not a very robust system, which is why they changed the Diet Mountain Dew canister and the Chick-fil-A and the Culp Center faster than power structures on the university. Having variance in timescales is important. The Research Foundation can also help in that context as we look at an uncertain future where timescales are going to matter more, the ability to pivot quickly and do something more quickly for interdisciplinary learning, for instance, experiential learning. We believe that the Research Foundation can play a role there. If I were to summarize the vision, really, it's the Research Foundation can be a convening point for campus. it therefore can facilitate connections, and where you have creative connections, you have creativity and innovation. So the connect, convene, connect, and create, and which is the vision that Bill and I have been talking about as we take this opportunity to kind of launch Research Foundation 2.0. I'll stop, and my guess is I've thrown a lot out there that could engender questions.
But Professor Golden, I thank you and Dr. Duncan for kind of setting the stage, and I'll put a little bit of a wrap on this, and then Madam Chair, we'll turn back to you for what I hope can be a question and conversation among the board. As I mentioned at the onset of my comments, the process through which we grow, facilitate, and create a culture that supports research on this campus has been a process that's been underway for a number of years. But with the addition of elements such as the Center for Rural Health Research, some emergent opportunities with Ballard, where I think the stars are maybe finally starting to align, as well as the hiring of a new, very, very strategic and high-powered chair of excellence holder in the College of Business. I think now is the time for us to really bring years worth of conversations to a close, look at structure, adjust bylaws, look at the board of directors and the executive director CEO, and really bring to bear talents that can help Dr. Duncan and the faculty realize their vision, but also position us so that we can realize the vision of the board. So really look forward to the discussion to come. And Madam Chair, we'll turn it back to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this on behalf of staff.
Thank you. As I said at the very beginning, this is truly an exciting, very exciting possibility. And I really would love the board's input and a discussion on what we are thinking about. I like the word research corporation, because I think as Professor Golden and Dr. Duncan continue to create and shape what we can do, there are some things that I'd like the board to consider. You know, we all know it's the board's responsibility for developing and approving the school's mission, strategic plans, and so forth, and objectives. And traditionally, research has not been a direction that ETSU has gone. But as Dr. Nolan pointed out with Ballard, we certainly have a lot of opportunities. We had this amazing facility that has 72,000 square feet on 144 acres on the corner of two interstates, on the corner of I-26 and 81 intersection. Imagine, I want us to really think out of the box what this can be. And I know Dr. Nolan has been doing this along with the 125 regional push. You know, initially I thought, well, this is more the board's responsibility strategy for the university. However, something like this really does need to be a public-private partnership with, as David Golden pointed out, all of the faculty is going to kind of be touched. And it's so exciting because we have so many different colleges that are going to be involved in different ways that I want maybe Dr. Golden, Professor Golden to expand on here in a minute. But, you know, imagine on this 140 acres that we do make the Research Foundation a corporation, and we build out dorms and everything for medical residents, for nursing, for the allied health that we just heard the presentation. And they could then go to all of the hospitals from Greenville, Tennessee, because the location is on two interstates, to Southwest Virginia, to Holston Valley, to obviously the Mid-Center VA and Bristol, you know, and all of our rural hospitals. This location could potentially be built out for all of our students to be able to live and travel to all of the resources that Ballard should be able to provide. And this would require a public-private partnership. I know entrepreneurs are super excited. They're starting to kind of hear a little rumbling. So they would be interested in investing. I know our wonderful mayors, both Grandy and Venable, have going to be very, very important in building out Valley Brook as far as helping us with sewage and maybe some egress and ingress directly from an interstate. I mean, this is really an exciting time. And under Professor Golden's and Dr. Duncan's purview, I mean, just start to imagine some of the things we can possibly do. And I really would like some input from the board.
Well, you've said it very well, Linda, and I'll start off with the trustees. I've had the opportunity to have seen what we're attempting to start in its maturity at Purdue. And several of you have seen that campus and what it has meant to that region, with creating thousands and thousands of jobs, high-paying jobs, just around the peripheral of the campus. And I think this is the game changer for our region to bring. We're a little bit like Switzerland at ETSU in that we can cross the borders where an individual economic developer may not be able to, but being able to bring that into us, if you will. There are so many opportunities that this unlocks, and the thing that has always held us back in the past is capital. But this is the most exciting thing I've seen in decades within our region, and what ETSU will become through this as this program matures, and what it will mean to the people in our region. I don't think I can say much more, Linda. You covered it very, very well.
Well, that you actually did just spark something. Professor Golden, you talked about convening, connecting, creating. I know we've talked about some examples and what it would mean for our brain drain of losing our wonderful K through 12, let alone our graduates, because they're a limited opportunity. Could you kind of maybe give us an example of one of these integrating models that we could do?
Yes, certainly. I'd be happy to. If you look at, if you were to put a business hat on and say, where's the market going over the next 10 years? Where's the opportunity? Back to the uncertain future, but do your best guess. The field of synthetic biology, by some experts' estimation, is going to grow by $4 trillion. That's with a T, over the next 10 years. And so if you take that, and I actually just presented at an international conference that is the largest biotech scale-up conference in Canada, and was struck with the global nature of the audience. It was incredible. So let's say that that's a trend. Well, then the question is, what might we as a university be doing to help prepare students for that? Well, one of the things would be to be putting synthetic biology curriculum into the university. An asset at Valley Brook could enable us to, because they have 32 wet labs there, 100,000 square feet of lab and office space, which coincidentally approximates Lab Central and Kendall Square off the campus of MIT, that is currently focused on synthetic biology and has had to do 2 expansions over the last 10 years because of how fast that's growing. So we could do a cluster hire at the university focused on synthetic biology application. And for those of you who follow that, there's a myriad of applications, whether it's agriculture, medicine, manufacturing, and the list goes on. We could use that, the university, as kind of a center point to establish a K-12 project in our local school systems, partnering with a Niswonger Foundation led by the Clemmer College, but supported by Arts and Sciences, the Honors College, and the College of Business and Technology. And as we develop that K-12 feeder system, the university would be a logical place for our students to end up. They can do things like BioBuilder, which is a world-class not-for-profit headquartered in Cambridge, Massachusetts, started by a woman, Dr. Natalie Kuldell, who's a PhD Harvard med grad who is also a tenured faculty at MIT, could help us with the K-12 piece of it. There's a thing called iGEM, which if I suggest you Google that, has been wildly successful at helping college students start businesses while they're still in college, which would foster the third leg of the stool, which is a economic development piece, which Valley Brook could also play in. And what I just outlined, as fanciful as that sounds, is incredibly realistic, because Dr. Kuldell will be on our campus next week doing just this, helping us with this. And as an aside, BioBuilder was one of 6 nonprofits who recently was named in part of a grant called the BioMade Grant, which is issued by the Department of Defense, $87.5 million plus another $187 million of non-federal funds that the DoD has issued to ensure that the United States is current on the next generation of manufacturing. In a manufacturing context, you often hear this referred to as nanotechnology. Our state didn't have any institutions that are participating in that grant, one of 11 states that have no participation. So I think this is an opportunity. I think the market signal is pretty strong from a research perspective that our university could really play a pivotal role. Just as a hypothetical example, Chairman Latimer.
A great example. Anyone else want to weigh in on what we could possibly do with redoing the research foundation to be more a corporation and think outside the box on some of the ideas on, we've seen with COVID, and probably this new administration is going to probably have a pretty good focus on science and technology. Any other input?
I would just add, Linda, that the collaboration that occurs by breaking down the silos of each college, that in bringing them together and working together on these projects has an amazing result in cohesiveness for the future of the university.
Echo that sentiment. I do think that a structure that would facilitate and maybe even force a little bit the breaking down those silos and collaborating would be wonderful. And as I'm listening to this conversation, I guess what's hitting me is why not? So that's all I have to say.
Dr. Foley.
Well, and I'm jumping in late because so many, I don't want to be redundant on anything that's said. Maybe just put an exclamation point on, I don't know if it was Scott or David, which one of y'all said it, but or maybe it was you, Linda, about the brain drain and just, what a great opportunity for the region. It's one of those things that we have this convergence of time that we can go through, that we've got this gym of a facility that, Scott, you were a thought leader on years ago. You invested early, that tying it to K through 12 and what corporations need and that global impact that it will have. The other thing that I want to make sure that we connect the dots to, besides corporations, is just, which goes hand in hand, but you've got this whole economic development engine at a state and national level, that economic development and education don't seem to ever coexist really well. So when you're talking about breaking down silos, they need to be at the table at a local, statewide, and national level, that it's past time for those two pockets of expertise to be collaborating together, so we don't have that brain drain. And we've just got a great opportunity.
I think that's well said. And I'm going to circle back around to money, because it does, it takes money to make money sometimes. And by spinning off and really making this a corporation, I think with the public-private partnership, but also this is such a center for regionalism, and Ballad Health is required to give money for research. I think what the hesitation, we're 3 years into where's the money? I think though that they've been waiting for a cohesive plan. And I think we are truly crafting the plan now to the point to where there will be some investment. And also, I imagine TVA, we could do a project for them. We could do a project for Eastman. We can collaborate with other universities, Purdue, anyone else, and piggyback off of some of their grants. We're so fortunate that Professor Golden is bringing Dr. Coldell in next week with synthetic biology to help us start frame. This is really exciting, and we need to continue to craft this story and really pay a lot of attention and give any type of financial support we can to this push, because this truly, especially just the location alone, as a lab rat, I can't help myself. When I walked into that building and I saw those wet labs, like, oh my gosh, do you all know what you have? Do you know how much that is worth? And then I looked on the, GPS and saw where it's located. And I started thinking, wonder if we do build out for, families of the residents and the medical students and the nursing students and allied health. And, then there's restaurants, and then, it just goes on and on. If that's not regionalism, how exciting for ETSU to be at the center, and look who we have now leading with us. I mean, super excited. So, this is going to be, I know Professor Golden is going to be reaching out through all the colleges. And that just one last question for Professor Golden. You've been a faculty member now for 2 whole months. What observations would you share as far as, reaching out and to the faculty? Have you had any discussions?
Yeah, the short version of it is, when I was privileged to be at the side of the trustees for 3.5 years, from time to time, we had these wonderful faculty appear in front of us, and you got a little bit of a flavor of the talent at ETSU. I can tell you as a faculty member, it's a lot easier. You can just go into somebody's office, you can do a Zoom call, you can just walk down the hall. And I am telling you, we have incredible world-class talent on our campus. And if there's anything, we don't tell our story well enough. And I'll pick on my friend, Bill Duncan. He just got named to a nationally acclaimed position, what is a National Academy of Sciences for immunology, looking, and I'm butchering this horribly, to look at research around immunology. Apparently that's Tuesday for Bill, and we should be singing our faculty at the top of our lungs. And what I have found is there's an appetite for this. Back to the K-12, STEM hub potential, we have Dean Scarborough who has convened multiple deans to start having this conversation and then pull people from the outside. And I think what they're looking for is just an easier vehicle to get some of the things done. So it doesn't take quite so long to have more commercial capability to run a little bit closer to the speed of business. So we can marry this, speed with research, collaboration, innovation. I don't mean to sound as excited as I am, because you're supposed to have this attitude of, controlled, behavior in front of a committee. So it looks like we're all being serious here, but holy cow, the opportunity in front of us, if you ask me what keeps you up at night, I'm not worried. I'm excited. And I just have a hard time going to bed at night sometimes because of all the potential that is in front of us. What the future is, I don't know. It may be, but we have so much optionality and so much potential on campus and so many good faculty. In 2 short months, that has been evident. And I'm just appreciative of just the welcome I've received. I don't know if I answered your question, Linda.
Yeah.
You did.
To Janet's point, an exclamation under exclamation, this whole notion of economic development and education and keeping our talent here local to drive is a big, big, big deal. And so one of the things we want to make sure we do is bring plans to people that if they invest in them, there's a high probability of getting a return on the investment. And back to your point, Linda, I think that's been an opportunity for us in the past. And I'm not saying we'll solve the whole thing by Christmas, but we're on the path.
Wonderful. Well, I think we'll continue to dream big. And, I really think this is going to happen faster than we think. If one thing we've learned with COVID is I know that ETSU can really move. I mean, it's been amazing what you've had to do already. So I know we are capable, and I'm excited that, with the Vision 125 being pulled in and the public-private partnerships and regionalism, I think ETSU literally, not just figuratively, is going to be in the center, especially with this location of Valley Brook as well.
And Madam Chair, if I could, I know that this is an information item, And I also recognize that the Research Foundation is an independent entity from our board. However, we've got a lot of synergies occurring here, and I would like to maybe see if I could receive some concurrence from the board for what I think will be a emergent action plan on a short time frame. One is that I will work with Dr. Duncan, Professor Golden, and others here very quickly to begin the process of restructuring the bylaws for the foundation, chartering a new board, appointing CEO of the Research Corporation, but then also beginning work based upon the call we've heard from you today to really reach out to local entities to see if there's an opportunity for ETSU to serve as a nexus for some of these ECD and regionalism conversations. So I'm looking at head shaking. I'm going to take that as authorization to run. And the three of the faces that you see on this screen are going to have a busy next week.
Well, that's wonderful. It sounds like a fun week, though. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, well, we'll move to our next information and discussion item. It looks like Dr. Block and Dr. Linville will be giving us an update on ETSU, the Ballad MOU ETSU Coordinating Council.
Thanks, Dr. Latimer. Good morning, members of the committee and members of the board. It's great to be back with you again. I believe I was last with you in February. Quite a bit has happened since then, as you're well aware. One of the things I mentioned back then was us getting started with the organization of the structure that the MOU created. So for those of you new to the board, as you're probably well aware, it is included in your materials, the university has entered into an agreement with Ballad to sort of formally structure how we go about our partnership in healthcare and what that means in terms of being able to educate workforce to remain in the area, what it means in terms of providing the best healthcare for members of our community, how to provide research opportunities to further advance healthcare in the region, et cetera. And so this is a very deliberate way that we're looking at our partnership with Ballad subsequent to the merger. And so since we last met, obviously the pandemic hit, but that has not stopped how we operate with Ballad. As you're aware from the MOU structure, there are 3 sub-councils that meet. Education and training is one, clinical and community-based care and innovation is the second sub-council, and then there is a third research sub-council as well. And so those sub-councils are populated now and are meeting, and much of what we're doing at this point is organizing and cataloging what we do and what we have in terms of our relationship with Ballad. There's a lot of complexity, obviously, in these 2 organizations in terms of how they've overlapped historically, what that means for us in terms of our partnership working forward. So we've worked through certain things like a complete inventory of agreements within the College of Medicine and its faculty practice plan, especially as it relates to some of the accreditation work medicine has done over the past couple of years. IRB operations, Wellmont has had its own IRB, and so there is that to work through in terms of its relationship with us at Ballad. We've talked about pipeline and workforce issues, as you're well aware probably and watching the news. There are a lot of concerns that Ballad has, especially in the pandemic, in terms of being able to attract and retain, for instance, nursing staff, respiratory therapy staff. And so we obviously are a primary partner with them in that. We've talked specifically about rotations. Back in March, April, and May, we had to suspend some of the rotations for our learners within Ballad facilities, but obviously there's a balance to that. How do we deal with the fact that if we delay education too long, we put at risk our students' ability to progress through their curricula? And so it's a balance for us in terms of working with Ballad, and obviously the structure with the MOU and the sub-councils are very important to be able to work through those. So we have students on rotations now, even though that we're sort of in a different phase of the pandemic at this point. We're through lots of different contractual issues related to things like our addiction fellowship, orthopedics, our work with the College of College of Pharmacy. So there's a lot in terms of what we're doing, nuts and bolts, organizing and cataloging at this point. There's a lot that's gone into pandemic response. Obviously, this is something that none of us has ever done before. And so how is that important for us, not just as institutions, but as leaders of the community, what that means in terms of messaging. And so we've done quite a bit with Ballot in terms of the health and safety of the entire region using this structure outlined in the MOU. I think at this point, we're really still moving with our focus on positioning ourselves to have the opportunity to strategize together in a better way. I talked to you last time about being sort of this historical relationship we had with the legacy organizations of Ballot in terms of being transactional. I think we're still sort of tactical in nature in how we're having to address issues, but we're both recognizing the importance of strategy and doing that together. As Professor Golden just mentioned ago, being at the speed of business is really important for us. And so how do we become more efficient? I think that is the focus of what we're doing in terms of being hand in glove with the academic mission of the university, the healthcare delivery system with Ballot, and the quality improvement that we both strive to achieve. Your help as board members is still in taking opportunities as you individually have those in the community to help us frame and develop and sort of evolve our relationship with Ballot to that strategic partner. I think that is the critical message that both of us are working on in terms of our sides within the MOU Council and what that means for us in next steps. That's where we're going to succeed in terms of our strength. So that's kind of an overview. I know we're sort of moving through the tail end of your agenda today, and so I don't want to take too much of your time, but that sort of provides you an overview of where we are. Even during the pandemic, we've been able to meet remotely using platforms like we're using this morning to be able to effectively communicate and solve problems with Ballot. So I'll turn to Dr. Block. He obviously is part of this team as well and meets regularly with Ballot as well on these issues to see if he has any other information to add at this point.
Thank you, David. I think Dr. Linville did a great job at summarizing really the increased communication that we've had courtesy of the MOU and our sub-councils. I think that communication hopefully will be the bridge to help us really progress from a relationship that has been transactional in the past to one that is much more collaborative and forward thinking. So anything that the board certainly can do to help with enhancing that collaboration and promoting the benefits of an academic health center for the region, I think is important. So I appreciate Dr. Linville's update.
And Dr. Latimer, if I could, I also would like to provide a little bit of additional context. You know, one of the great opportunities in front of us with Ballot is the chance to explore deeper integration of our ETSU health operations with the Ballot operations. You know, if you look across the country, for almost every major academic health sciences center, they have a full and robust partnership with the local healthcare system. Either they own the local healthcare system or it's a deep and integrated partnership. So as part of this MOU work, as well as other work that's underway, I think we're really beginning to make some concerted baseline foundational development there. COVID has complicated some things. Quite often it's hard to stay focused on things that are exciting when COVID distracts you because of the emergency of the issue. But I think on the Ballot side, as well as on the ETSU side, we have committed to some aggressive timelines to get some things to move that hopefully in 21 we could bring back to the board for your discussion and review. But I just wanted to let you and the board know that above and beyond the work that's occurring in the MOU setting, there's a lot of work occurring behind the scenes that could hopefully yield a realization of a vision that I know many of the board members worked so hard for as we were beginning the early conversations of the merger. So just wanted to provide some additional color on the work that your staff is engaged in despite everything COVID.
I know we're running short on time, but I do just want to make a couple of comments. Circling back to regionalism, when I have conversations within the region, and with medical students and residents and many of our allied health professionals. They don't understand why we aren't in all of the hospitals in Greenville, Bristol, everywhere. And they were really under the thought process that we were a truly integrated academic health science center, that ETSU was totally, financially a partner and not just a transactional partner where you get paid for your services, but a true partner in the system. And so when I try to explain that we are not an academic health science center in the true sense of the word, to where we cannot grow our school, we cannot start new residency positions in order to train the best allied health professionals to keep them in our region. They say, well, why is that? And why is it always kept so quiet? And I thought about that question, and it kind of occurred to me that in the past, under the legacy system, we as an institution were under the Board of Regents. And the Board of Regents, there was only a couple of people from even our region that got involved in these sort of conversations. And now that there's a Board of Trustees that knows what the community needs, and we know we need the best healthcare, and we know that we have the COPA in place, and it's supposed to be a public advantage for the entire region. I think this is a wonderful platform, and I encourage the board members to strongly support all of the work that's being done in this arena. So, any other discussion? Okay, any other business? Wow, everyone's really quiet. Okay, with that, I think we will adjourn. And is there a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, second. I see Chair Nicefunger's hand. And so thank you guys for your time, and I will see you in the next committee meeting.